Welcome back to The Explainer. So today we're diving into a topic that, let's be honest, usually triggers immediate panic: brain tumors. But as we're going to see, the reality is far more nuanced and frankly way more fascinating than you might think. We're looking at some incredible medical insights from neurosurgeon Dr. Tsusu, who specializes in demystifying this exact topic. He brings a wonderfully reassuring, structured approach to a really complex subject. So get comfortable because we are about to completely reframe how you think about neurological health. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Defining brain tumors. 2. The rule of location. 3. Surgery versus observation. 4. The surgical approach. And finally, 5. Detection and next steps. All right, Section 1. Defining brain tumors. What exactly is a brain mass? When you hear brain tumor, your mind probably jumps to a worst-case scenario, right? But medically speaking, it's actually a super broad category. What's really interesting here is that, simply put, a brain tumor is literally just a mass or a growth inside the brain. Dr. Tsutsui emphasizes that in the medical world, these masses have a huge variety of classifications, and they vary wildly in their physical makeup. Just to give you a sense of that variety, the physical consistency of these growths is completely over the map. You can have soft tumors, or you can have incredibly hard, dense structures. And, get this, you can even have what are called cystic tumors, which are actually just masses filled with water. It's a really great reminder that the human body is incredibly diverse, and not all of these masses are made of the same stubborn tissue. Now, you might be wondering about the why and the how. A huge question that always pops up when we talk about this is, if I carry a genetic predisposition, is it a done deal? Does that guarantee I'm going to develop one of these masses? It's a totally valid fear, especially if you have a family history. Well, here is the crucial takeaway. Having the genetic blueprint does not mean the building actually gets built. As Dr. Tsutsui notes, even if you hold the specific genes associated with these tumors at a cellular level, whether that tumor actually develops depends heavily on a whole host of other circumstances. Basically, genetics might be a factor, but it is absolutely not your destiny. Moving right along to Section 2, the rule of location: why zip codes matter in the brain. If you take away just one single concept from this entire explainer, make it this. The brain is essentially like high-end real estate, and when it comes to tumors, location dictates absolutely everything. Take this comparison straight from Dr. Tsutsuy's practice. If a tumor sets up camp on your auditory nerve, you're looking at hearing loss. But if that exact same type of mass develops on your trigeminal nerve, the symptom is entirely different. It dulls your facial sensation. It proves that the biological makeup of the mass is only half the story. Its specific zip code in the brain is what actually dictates how it impacts your daily life. And hey, this rule of location totally applies to benign, non-cancerous tumors too. It's easy to think that if a tumor is benign, it's completely harmless. But even if a tumor is totally benign, its location is what triggers the symptoms. As it grows, it physically takes up space, pressing against the incredibly complex, tightly packed map of surrounding nerves and tissue. That physical squishing, that compression, is what actually causes the clinical issues. Which brings us to Section 3, surgery versus observation: when to act and when to just watch. When people find out they have a mass, the immediate reaction is usually, get me to an operating room right now. But the reality of when to act and when to just sit back and watch is much more measured. Dr. Tsutsui shared this insight that honestly de-escalates so much of the panic associated with a diagnosis. He says, for example, even with a 3-centimeter tumor, some require surgery while many others just need observation. Think about that for a second. A 3-centimeter mass in the brain sounds huge and terrifying, but size alone doesn't automatically mean you need open brain surgery. Building on that idea, if a mass is small and hanging out in a relatively harmless location where it isn't bothering any critical nerves, doctors will often just hit pause and monitor it safely over time. It is incredibly common for patients to go on living their completely normal lives, simply keeping an eye on the situation without ever needing a scalpel. Surgery usually only enters the chat if the mass starts growing and actually compressing the brain. Okay, Section 4, the surgical approach: navigating the complex pathways. But of course, we have to ask, what happens when that real estate does become a problem and an intervention is actually required? Well, for benign tumors that have grown to a point where they need treatment, Dr. Tsutsui outlines 2 primary medical options. First is physical surgical removal, which is medically known as resection. The second option is radiation therapy. And choosing between these two, or maybe a combination of both, depends heavily on your specific case. If surgery is the chosen path, we come right back to our golden rule. Location is everything. When dealing with brain surgery, you can't exactly just go straight in. Surgeons have to painstakingly map out the absolute safest pathway, the approach, to access the tumor without damaging any healthy surrounding areas. Because the brain is so intricately wired, some spots require wildly complex, specialized routes. And any potential after effects from the surgery, those are dictated almost entirely by exactly where that tumor is hiding out.
Finally, let's hit Section 5, Detection and Next Steps, taking control with the brain doc.
So, how do we take all this fascinating medical theory and turn it into practical action for ourselves? The absolute best way to see what's happening inside your head is through preventative screening. In Japan, they commonly refer to this as a brain doc. It starts with step 1, getting an MRI. This scan checks out your brain's real estate, letting doctors spot any masses way before they cause symptoms. If they do find something, you move right to step 3, consulting with a specialist to map out a custom plan. Whether that's just observation or active treatment, you get to do it without the immediate panic. And here is another hugely reassuring point from Dr. Tatsui. Let's say an MRI reveals a tumor that happens to be in a really tricky, highly complex location. The medical community is incredibly well connected. Your doctor can easily refer you to specific specialists within their network who have achieved the exact high-level surgical mastery needed to handle that specific location safely. You are literally never alone in figuring out those next steps. We've seen today that when it comes to the brain, location dictates absolutely everything. It's this incredibly complex, beautiful map of nerves and tissues. So I'll leave you with this. If the brain's real estate really does dictate our health, when was the last time you checked your map?